the border dispute areas of India and Pakistan. Okay, that is what we're going to take a look at. Right now, very simply, getting a sense of India-Pakistan understanding. First of all, we are going to take a look at what is known as the Radcliffe line. This is the first point that we're going to be concerned with, what is known as the Radcliffe line. Radcliffe line is the international border between India and Pakistan. Right? So you have, for example, the international border between India and Pakistan, which includes West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Okay, minus what is known as the border of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, so what I mean to say is what we call the Radcliffe line is a line which was created by the Britishers, and the main description of what is known as a Radcliffe line is how when you take a look at the concept of Radcliffe line is a line which was created by the Britishers to demarcate the territories between India and West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Right, so the West Pakistan at this point of time is known as Pakistan. East Pakistan today is known as Bangladesh, and the line that the Britishers had drawn to create a distinction between West Pakistan and India and East Pakistan and India was known as the Radcliffe line. An important thing to be noted about the Radcliffe line is that the border of Jammu and Kashmir that goes with Pakistan is not covered under the Radcliffe line, because at the time of the creation of the Pakistani territory, when Pakistani state was created, at that time the border of Jammu and Kashmir was not demarcated with Pakistan because Jammu and Kashmir had not signed an instrument of accession until October 1947. Right, so the partition of India, while it was happening at that point of time, Jammu and Kashmir was neither a part of India nor Pakistan, and the instrument of accession that the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir had signed with India, it was signed later than when the Radcliffe line was formed. So Jammu and Kashmir became a part of India later on, and therefore it is not demarcated in the Radcliffe line. That's a prelims question from the previous years, in which, for example, if you take a very simple look at this, right, if you take a look at the diagram of what is known as a Radcliffe line, this is what is associated at the Radcliffe line. Okay, the parts that separate India from Pakistan in the western region and the part which separate India from East Pakistan, currently the line between India and Bangladesh as it is called, these are the two what you can call characterizations of the Radcliffe line. What was to be importantly remembered is that the line which separates this area from Pakistan, right, the state of Jammu and Kashmir, this is not called the Radcliffe line. It is simply called the international border between India and Pakistan at Jammu and Kashmir. This is what is not a part of the Radcliffe line, and the reasoning for this is very simple, that when the Britishers had created Radcliffe line, at that point of time the princely state of what you can call Jammu and Kashmir was not a part of the Union of India. It had not signed the instrument of accession till then. It had signed the instrument of accession later on, and only after that the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir became a part of the Republic of India. So it is simply called the international border between Kashmir and Pakistan, but it is not associated as what we call the Radcliffe line. So that's the first thing that we have to understand with regard to understanding this particular part. This is known as a Radcliffe line. Right, now the second part that we're going to understand in association with the Radcliffe line is what is known as the ceasefire line, or what is sometimes known as the line of actual control. I'm going to write some details about this part. Sorry, line of control, not line of actual control. Ceasefire line and what is known as the line of control. Okay. Now, if you take a look at, for example, the ceasefire line, number one, was a result of the first Indo-Pak War. In 1947. Right. So first Indo-Pak War, which started in the areas of Gilgit, Baltistan, where the Pakistani, what you can call, Pakistani army recruited tribal raiders had entered into the territory of Gilgit, Baltistan. Right. So just to give you a sense of this entire part, if you take a look at very simply, if you take a look at the aspects of Kashmir and the territory of Kashmir, Kashmir can be understood very simply like this. Now, again, I'm just doing some basic elementary map work over here. Okay. If you take a look at Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir as it is understood, then Kashmir can be divided into 4 geographical divisions, right? This part of Kashmir, which is called Ladakh and Leh, this is generally a part of the Tibetan plateau, right? So this is entirely a part which is called the plateau region. Okay. And the people who are living in this area, they are Tibetan Buddhists. Clear? Then you have, let's say, for example, these parts. This part of Kashmir, which I'm underlining over here, this is entirely a kind of a mountainous region which goes by the name of Gilgit Baltistan. Right? This entirely is a mountainous region which goes by the name of Gilgit Baltistan. Okay. This part of Kashmir, which lies over here under Gilgit Baltistan, this part is what is known as the Kashmir Valley. Okay, you have the main cities of Kashmir over here. For example, you have Srinagar, Anantnag, Baramulla, Shopian. These are the main areas of Kashmir which are becoming a part of what is known as the Kashmir Valley, right? And the ethnicity of the Kashmir Valley are what are simply known as Kashmiris, be it Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, or Kashmiri Muslims, right? And then this part over here, this area is known as the Jammu Plains. This is a plain area entirely, right? Right, and the ethnicity which is prominent over here are Dogras and Sikhs. So this is a simple geographical, or what you can call an ethno-geographical map of Kashmir, which can divide Kashmir into these 3-4 regions, right? You have the Tibetan Plateau, which is occupied mostly by the Tibetan Buddhists, which is what is known as Leh Ladakh. Then you have the Gilgit-Baltistan region. Then you have the Kashmir Valley, and you have the Jammu Plains. This is how the geography of Kashmir can be associated in a very categorical manner. And the local population of this region are known as the Baltistanis. It is named upon the local population, ethnic population, which is present in the Gilgit-Baltistan region. Right. What we know as a ceasefire line, or what you can call the line of control, is a line which goes like this, which has marked the entire Gilgit-Baltistan region into what is called the Pak occupied Kashmir. Right, this is what is known as the Pak occupied Kashmir, also known in some senses as the POK. Right, and the line which is going at the center of this, which is dividing this particular area, this line is known as the line of control. Previously it was known also as the ceasefire line, but currently it is not known as the ceasefire line. It is known as what is called the line of control. Okay, so I hope you get a sense of this part somewhat. So what basically I'm trying to in a way impress upon you is that this state of Jammu and Kashmir, with its geographical and ethnic divisions, did not become a part of the Union of India in 1947, 15th August. So therefore it was not marked as a partition territory contained in the Union of India. Right, it was not marked as a territory of the Union of India because it had not signed the instrument of accession till the time with the Union of India. It only became a part of the Union of India after the instrument of accession, and therefore the border between Pakistan and Kashmir is not demarcated as a Radcliffe line. This is the point that I'm trying to in a way indicate for yourself. Right, the border between the Pakistanis and the Kashmir is not demarcated as what is known as the Radcliffe line. Are we clear about this, class? Okay, so going back to this point, was the ceasefire line or line of control was a result of the first Indo-Pak War 1947. Okay, point number B. Ceasefire line was a result of a United Nations Security Council resolution which allowed for demarcating two territories in Kashmir. One which was known as the POK, the Pak occupied Kashmir, and the other what was known as the Indian administered Kashmir. Right, this is basically what the entire factual understanding about the ceasefire line is. So if a question comes very simply that who gave, let's say, who performed mediation, if the question comes who performed mediation on the ceasefire line, the answer to this question is United Nations Security Council. The UN performed mediation on what we understand as the ceasefire line. Clear? Do you get a sense of this? Okay, I'm just going to depict this on the map for you. Get a sense of this clearly. Let's take a look at this properly. Please pay attention to this class. All of this is going to be important for the current examination. Okay, just get a sense of this one over here. This part that you see over here, this is what is known as Gilgit Baltistan. Right? This part that you see right here, this is known as the Kashmir Valley. Right? And this part that you see, for example, you have these areas in Kashmir marked like this. You have, for example, you have this entire region which is known as the Kashmir Valley. You can see Srinagar over here, Baramulla over here, Anantnag over here. This is a part of what is known as the Kashmir Valley. And this part is known as the plain areas of Jammu. You can see Jammu over here, Udhampur, Samba, Kathua. These are parts of what are known as Jammu. So right, so what you see is Jammu Plains, Kashmir Valley, and what is known as the Gilgit Baltistan region, right? To the east of this entire region, you have what you call the movement of the Tibetan plateau. So you can see very clearly the plateau regions, right? You see the ways in which the plateau has taken the entire territory over here, this part. This is what is known as the Tibetan plateau. I hope you understand with this kind of a reference the diagram I was trying to make over here. Please take a look at this diagram again. You have the plateau region, the Gilgit Baltistan, Kashmir Valley, Jammu Plains, right? This entire region is what you can understand as the plateau region in Kashmir. Clear? Let me show you through a different map again. Okay. Take a look at this part. This part which delineates this one, okay, here to here. This is known as the line of control, or what is known as a ceasefire line. Okay, this part over here, this is entirely what is known as the Gilgit Baltistan region, which is currently under the occupation of the Pakistani army. The Kashmir Valley region, this part, this is all under the control of the Indians, and the Jammu Plains also entirely are under control of the Indians. This part is the part of Ladakh, and within Ladakh, this region is what is known as the line of actual control, LAC, which we'll come to later on. Okay, and this geography, this territory which is dividing Kashmir from Tibet is what is known as the Johnson line, right? Just to give you a reference to this. Okay, so what you see over here is what I have marked as a line of control. It was a ceasefire agreement which was signed between India and Pakistan, mediated by the United Nations, which ended the 1947 war and gave the distinction between India and Pakistan with regard to the control of Kashmir. So the northern areas, as they are called, what is basically known as the areas of Kashmir in Gilgit Baltistan, they are under the control of the Pakistani army, but politically claimed by India. And that territory over here is what is known as Gilgit Baltistan. The line which is running through these two areas between this and this is what is known as the line of control. Are we clear about this? Please take a look at this. This is a ceasefire agreement which basically marked the line of control. Okay, so we're talking about the ceasefire agreement, an agreement which was signed on 29th July 1949. Okay, agreement between military representatives of India and Pakistan regarding the establishment of a ceasefire line in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, right? So very simply speaking, what we're talking about over here is a ceasefire line. So you take a look at this. A ceasefire line was a result of the first Indo-Pak War 1947. Ceasefire line was a result of the UNSC resolution which allowed for a demarcating two territories in Kashmir, which is POK and IAK, which is Pak occupied Kashmir and Indian administrative Kashmir. The ceasefire agreement, as you can see the copy over here, says something like this: agreement between military representatives of India and Pakistan regarding the establishment of a ceasefire line in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, right? So this was signed by the mediation of United Nations Security Council resolution. The military representatives of India and Pakistan met together in Karachi from 18 July 27 July 1949 under the auspices of the Truce Subcommittee of the United Nations Commissions for India and Pakistan, right? And it was at this point of time that this agreement was signed. So first time the term that was used for delineating the line between the POK and the IAK was known as the ceasefire line. Now it is to be noted very clearly and categorically, just to continue this part, that let's say if I write point number C to this one, right? If, for example, let's say we see the term that was used by the ceasefire agreement (1949) was the ceasefire line, right? So the line that was demarcating the two parts, that line was known as a ceasefire line. Okay. Point number D. The Shimla Agreement, which was signed in 1972, changed the term ceasefire line into what is known as the line of actual control, or what is known as the LOC. Okay. Point number D says the Shimla Agreement, which was signed in 1972, changed the term ceasefire line and converted it into what is known as line of control. Sorry, not line of actual control. I'm sorry. Line of control, LOC. So it is to be noted very clearly that the term line of control did not become a part of common usage until 1972. Okay, it was in 1972 that the term line of control was introduced in place of the term ceasefire line by the signing of the Shimla Agreement. Right. Today, this terminology is used, but this terminology only came to be in place in 1972 when the Shimla Agreement was signed. Right. So this is a brief understanding of this entire part. Class, are we clear about it? Between India and Pakistan, you have the Radcliffe line. With the Radcliffe line, you have international border between India and Pakistan, dividing West Pakistan and East Pakistan, which is basically what is known as the Radcliffe line. But the Radcliffe line does not include the border of Jammu and Kashmir. This is a point that I want you to note very specifically, right? The introduction of Jammu and Kashmir happened through what is known as the Instrument of Accession, which was signed in October 1947. And the Instrument of Accession created the possibility of Kashmir to become a part of India. After that, you had a war between India and Pakistan, which ended up in a ceasefire, in a truce. And that ceasefire was initiated by the United Nations Security Council. The mediation was provided by the United Nations Security Council. And in 1949, a ceasefire line was created between India and within Kashmir, between India and Pakistan, with regard to control of Kashmir. And this ceasefire line later on in 1972 had gained what is known as the status of a line of control. Okay. Now, just to add to this, the POK region, which is also known in geographical terms as the Gilgit Baltistan region, is currently militarily occupied by Pakistan. But politically, claimed by India. मतलब जो पाक ऑक्यूपाइड कश्मीर है उसका मिलिट्री ऑक्यूपेशन तो पाकिस्तान के द्वारा हो रखा है, बट आज के समय में भी पॉलिटिकल रूप से हम उसको भारत का हिस्सा मानते हैं. राइट. इवन Pakistan has described the POK region as a part of itself politically. Pakistan has also described the POK region as a part of itself politically, and it uses the term Azad Jammu and Kashmir, what it calls the AJK. This is the term that Pakistan uses to define what is known as the concept of what you can call uh, Gilgit Baltistan region, which is occupied by the Pakistani militarily. The political term that the Pakistani government uses to denote the what you can call the Gilgit Baltistan region is known as the Azad Jammu and Kashmir. All right, so this is about Kashmir. Very simply, this is the detail that I want to in a way share with regard to Kashmir on the current context. Ratcliffe line, ceasefire line, also known as a line of control. These are the facts about the ceasefire line, and I've already shared with you a map of how this particular area is currently associated.